But in any event, welcome everybody to this session. And it looks like we're also live now on Covalent Careers. So I can officially say welcome everybody to our next session here, finding side gigs during practice closures. And I'm joined by many of you probably know her, but Dr. Jennifer Chinn. She co-owns a practice in San Diego, but does a ton of stuff in industry, working with all kinds of different publications, speaking engagements, groups, and has a really successful and heavy Instagram presence. So you do a ton of stuff, and I was like, you would be perfect for this talk, Jen. So thanks for joining us. You've done so much stuff with us already, and we always appreciate working with you. And I was, we were chatting a little bit back and forth, and I was like, Jen, you're one of the rock stars in the profession. We have to have you be part of our event. So
Thank you.
thanks for joining us. And for those of you who are watching, before we kick things off here, I do have another Easter egg if you're collecting them, kind of those raffle codes to give you additional entries. And the code for this talk is VA Hospital. So make that one word when you type it in, VA Hospital. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more codes to go. So stay tuned. We'll be kind of giving those out additionally. But enough of me talking. Jen, let's, everyone came to hear you speak. So if you do have questions, punch them in the group chat. And I'll field them over to Jen, of course. If you're watching on YouTube, just simply chat them in. If you're watching through Covalent Careers, you're going to have to jump into the YouTube channel to type in your questions. So in any event, enough of me. Jen, a lot of practices are closed, and, ODs have a lot more time on their hands. So, what are some good opportunities, or how can you go about finding opportunities to kind of keep busy? I mean, what have you been doing?
Yeah, so I'll start kind of off with what you can do to kind of find opportunities. There's kind of three things that I keep in mind. The first one is to definitely network. So networking is super important. Even though we cannot do that in person right now, there's still ways that you can make connections with people online and still kind of open the lines of communication there. So using online platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram are great ways to kind of start. So if you don't have a profile online, you should definitely start off with that. And then keeping in mind that if you're just starting, things are not going to fall into your lap. Opportunities are not going to just come to you. You kind of have to, number two, kind of work for it a little bit, that work into network. So that's all about being social and engaging. So when you're on these platforms, it's not just about, hearting posts. If they're posting about articles, or maybe they had a podcast, or they posted a new YouTube video, you should go and look at those things, listen to those podcasts and watch those YouTube videos, and then provide feedback and comment and love to those people. That's a great way to, one, build relationships with these people and these companies, two, get to know them a little bit better if you don't know much about these companies. And then number three, it's a great way for you to see kind of what people are already doing in the industry. And if you're not sure what you want to do and how you can kind of contribute and what to look for as far as side gigs, these are great ways for you to kind of find out what people are doing out there. And then the last thing I keep in mind too is just kind of put yourself out there and reach out. So once you start making connections, you can reach out to industry leaders, to industry publication editors, or even like your local reps. That would be an easy one. So if you're a practicing OD, or maybe even if you're a student, reps come in all the time. They buy us lunch and they give us education. They're a great tool to kind of reach out and say, hey, you have a product or, a piece of equipment. Let me help you, market that or advertise for that, or let me help you reach new communities. So those are kind of the main things that I keep in mind when it comes to these and the great ways to do it. So I think LinkedIn is a great tool that you should be utilizing if you're not. So many people are on there. You can meet people from across the world that are optometrists and get so much great advice on there.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jen. And, we had a talk yesterday that we did around non-clinical careers, and, maybe some of these things, this isn't necessarily getting like, a full-time non-clinical career, but you do a ton in, like I said, in the industry in general, whether it's speaking or social media or writing and, all kinds of stuff. I mean, where have you found to be the biggest opportunities right now for these things? Is it social media? I mean, obviously we can't really do in-person stuff right now, right? But
Right.
what have you found to be the best avenue right now for finding these opportunities? Where are the opportunities?
Yeah, so I definitely think the opportunities are online. And for me personally, it's been through social media like Instagram and Facebook, and a little bit of LinkedIn as well. I think that our industry should push a little bit more into the online platform as far as being able to engage and tell people what the value of are. You know, a lot of people don't know who optometrists are, and that's like a big thing that I'm an advocate for, is just being on there and letting people know, hey, we do more than just ask what's one or two, right? And for me, I just kind of what I do is I've been reaching out to some of the companies that I've already worked with, and some that I haven't. And what I typically do is I have an idea already in mind before I already have the content already written out, or I already have the posts that I have on my Instagram profile, and I say, hey, what I had in this message would be an awesome thing to put into video or into an article. And that's kind of what I do to reach out to them. So it kind of shows your value to them, and they already have everything in front of them. So once they're looking through it, it's a great way for them to review and for you to explain and go over in detail, like why your content or what your idea is going to bring value to them, how it aligns with their brand, maybe in their audience, how it can reach new communities and their core values, you know. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of do that. But definitely, you know, the advice that I have and advice what a lot of other industry leaders have is you can't just ask them, say, hey, I'm available for an opportunity. You have to kind of come up with an idea and say, this is what I can bring to the table, and kind of show what you're kind of worth.
Yeah, that's definitely great advice, Jen. And what I want to do too here, and kind of think something that crossed my mind was that you do a lot of these things, obviously, but you're also you have a practice as well, right? So how does the whole social media and branding, or just media in general, how does it relate to practice? And particularly now, because there's a lot of talk around telemedicine. And what are your thoughts on that? And are there ways, for example, new grads to leverage this maybe as another skill, or bringing it to the table? Because when we talk about getting involved in side gigs, I mean, who knows? Maybe there are avenues there, and then you could take that and bring that to a practice, kind of double down on it, right?
Exactly. That's exactly my sentiment right now is for the new, or maybe just young practicing ODs, or maybe people that are just looking for new opportunities and they're kind of seeing what other jobs are out there. This is a great time for you to just kind of start looking into the social media or just online presence in general, because I'm looking around and there's a lot of practices that aren't doing anything. They're not saying anything, they're not posting anything other than a notice online saying that they're closed. But this is a great opportunity because so many people are online right now. So I'm not saying to kind of like spam people with stuff, but this is a great time to educate your patients, right? Or potential community. Like, don't go out there, wash your glasses, be careful when you wear your contact lenses. Like, some information that they may not already know about. It's a great opportunity to put that out there. And there's a lot of practices that I think even post COVID-19, they're, ton of practices don't even know how to navigate the online space, let alone build a website or have social media. So if you have experience with that and you have the knowledge of how to create great video or posts in online websites, this is a great asset for you. And that's something you should definitely add to your CV or your resume and say, hey, this is the other extra value that I can bring to your people, paying people to do that for them already, and they don't really know how to assess the return on investment of that because they don't understand the online platform, right? If you're younger and you're more, in depth with kind of being on social media and using it, I think it's a great tool for you, and you can show that to people.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jen, and I really like that. And it also got me thinking, and I'd love to get your kind of input on this. But you do a lot in the industry. I mean, you do a ton of things. I've been saying this a couple times now already. But I was also saying, obviously you do a lot on social media as well. Do you feel like having a good social presence leads to those opportunities kind of finding you, or is it kind of like, well, I this journal reached out to me because they saw me on social media? And if that's the case, I mean, would you recommend people who want to get started with this kind of focus on the social media for a lot of the reasons you said, but also, not only will help you find side gigs, but also be very valuable to you? One, practices open up, you'll have this tool that you could bring to a practice. I mean, would you say that your number one tip basically is what I want to try to leave the audience here with? Number one tip for kind of, something to focus on right here, right now, while we've got the extra time, would it be social media? Is that where you'd start?
I mean, if you're younger and you know how to use the platforms, if you're not doing it already, you should start. I think one of the great tips that I got from one of the industry leaders is thinking about 10 common questions that patients have. So that's a great way to just start. Like, what are cataracts? You know, what are flashes of light or floaters? Like, go over those different things. What's pink eye? And it's a great way to just educate. So I'm a huge advocate of using social media to get education out to the public, because people are getting a lot of information from invalid sources, whether it comes, you know, from the coronavirus to, you know, optometry, or just, you know, medicine in general. So I think that as a profession and just healthcare in general, I think it's an amazing opportunity for us to kind of put ourselves out there and show the value that we have to the community. And it doesn't necessarily have to be social media. I think even if you have your own website for your business, you can start writing blog posts and start sending newsletters out to your patients. So it doesn't have to be out there and you posting pictures of yourself or videos and all this, you know, putting yourself out there. A lot of it can be, you know, on the back end of you just kind of helping your own community out, which is amazing. And it's an amazing tool, and you can connect with so many people, local business owners and things like that.
Hey, Jen, I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for sharing, you know, the wisdom with everybody. And where can people find you, you know, on Instagram particularly? Where can they follow you at?
Yeah, so I'm at dr.chinn for both. I'm also on LinkedIn, Jennifer Chinn OD, and I'm also on Facebook. So I'm on those platforms pretty heavily. So find me there, DM me, ask me questions if you have any.
Awesome. Hey, Jen, before you jet, one question came in just here at the last second. So before we hang up, I want to answer this for them. We've got a question here. So, you know, for students, how do we, you know, what's the best way to create this online presence if we don't, you know, if we haven't really had any patient cases or videos of patients to share yet? I mean, any ideas there? I'm sure there's a ton.
Yeah, I mean, there's already a ton of students out there that are doing an amazing job. And some of the things that they kind of put out there is just education. So you, even though you haven't had the clinical care, you still have a lot of education behind you. So what is astigmatism? You know, what is hyperopia? What is nearsighted, farsighted? So those are all questions that people have too. And that's a great way to kind of start educating and start putting yourself out there. So you have the tools behind you, even if you haven't seen patients yet, you still can answer a ton of questions, have a lot more information than the normal average person does.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. For those that are following us along, we're going to be in the education lobby talking next about specialties and modalities and kind of knowing what's right for you. So, Jen, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.